All right, so good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Xena World Chat Show, where we interview poets, authors, writers, scientists, researchers, and thinkers and luminaries in various fields. We hope this is inspiring and thoughtful to all of you. And so today I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Amit Shankar Saha, who is a writer and an author published in a wide variety of literary magazines and nominated for a Pushcart Prize. He's a former editor of Ethos Literary Magazine and a professor of English at the University of Calcutta. So I'm very excited to meet Amit, and I'm inviting him to introduce himself in more detail and to share what he would like to bring to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. Just to make one correction, that I'm not teaching at Calcutta University. I did my PhD and studies from Calcutta University. Now I'm teaching at CCOM Skills University, which is located in Bolpur.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for that. So yeah, I was quite impressed by that. And so I have a few questions which I'm going to ask. And to introduce myself, I am a writer and poet and literary magazine editor as well with Synchronized Chaos magazine. And so I'm very glad to meet a fellow writer and magazine editor. So anyhow, I would love to know what inspired you to pursue literature, just what got you interested in writing overall.
Yeah. From my childhood, I was interested. I was writing poems. I was writing stories. I can't say like at what age I started, but as far as I can remember, I was writing because most of the things that I was reading, I was reimagining them. I was making up answers in rhymes. That was there. But as a career, when I was around uh, in class 8, then I had a English teacher, Mr. Steve Menezes,
Mm-hmm.
who inspired us, whose teaching was such that he was teaching English. And that was when I decided, okay, this is my calling. This is where I belong. This is where I can excel. And obviously, it was not a very, very obvious choice, especially in India, to pursue a literary career. Obviously, the parents and friends and relatives, they all want you to pursue science. And I do had to pursue science. After my class 12, I had to do BSc, so Bachelor of Science.
Mm.
But then, when I was doing mathematics honors, I could feel that there was something missing. Most of the time, I was a member of the British Council Library. I was spending my time reading books of literature rather than books of mathematics. Not that I did not like maths less, it was just that I loved literature more. So, after completing my science graduation, I felt like, no, this is not my calling. I have to pursue literary studies. So I went to Calcutta University and said that uh, I want to shift to arts. So I want to pursue like undergraduate, postgraduate, until PhD. So they said like, you are a science graduate. How can you pursue arts now? Like, don't tell me what I can't do. I want to do this. So let me know what is the solution. So they said, okay, you do one subject special BA. So I did that in 2 parts. Then they said you have to appear for a pre-test for qualifying for master's degree. I passed that. Then I appeared for MA Part 1, then MA Part 2. I qualified there. And then after that, I directly joined PhD. So because that, my ultimate, like, see, all these time when I was studying science, mathematics, and all those things, I had never given up my literary studies. So I could never get disconnected. So while doing special BA or MA or later on PhD, it was nothing that what it was nothing that okay, I have pursued science, so I have got disconnected. No, it was not so, because I was always connected with literature. I was reading, I was a member of the British Council, as I told you. So
Mm.
the books, like I may not be having I was not going to a college to study, but most of, if I would have appeared for a English honors instead of mathematics honors, I would have got more marks perhaps, because most of the things I was, without doing the course, I was reading them. So reading was very, very vital. I was studying all sorts of books, and in that process, I did not even only read. I did not only read books that were prescribed in the syllabus in the curriculum. I read out of the syllabus things, and that is how my, and since I was interested in literature, I was attracted. I was writing poetry, I was writing stories, so I was reading them also. And reading is something that is essential for a writer. Without
Mm.
reading, you cannot become a writer. So that
Yes,
is how.
definitely. I found that too. I do a lot of reading as well. Yeah, I think it's just, yeah, it's very essential to read. And I love it that you paid tribute to your inspirational seventh grade teacher who got you interested in this path. I just think it's fabulous to pay tribute to mentors and people who have helped us along the way. And kind of also parallels my own journey. I've always been very interested in science and astronomy and biology, but I found myself reading literature books in college as well. And that really got me interested in ultimately changing my major and pursuing that. So I think a lot of people around the world would share your journey. So, anyhow, related to that, is there any particular challenge at any point in your career? And would you like to share how you were able to overcome that?
uh, what you said is very vital, because when we see uh, John Keats, he was trained as an apothecary and was pursuing medical books. And he
Mm,
said, later on, he said that it helped him as a poet also. So, whatever kind of knowledge we are getting by studying science or commerce or whatever, they ultimately they all add up, because if you are a writer, you require a diverse set of knowledge. You need to know things that are beyond just the curriculum, just the syllabus, and just not the literary studies, because the literary studies is like I believe that literary studies can be anything. There is literature in everything. A painting can be literary, a music can be literary, a scientific formula can be have that texture of literariness, something that is aesthetic.
mm,
We know Einstein was always in search of theory of everything, that there will be a beauty in the equation. So something that
mm.
is always been there. Regarding a particular, like as I told you, my father wanted me to become a doctor or engineer or something, and that's why I had to pursue uh, science. So that was a time, that was a very difficult time, because I wanted to pursue something else, but I did not have the financial independence to do that. So I had to go through that. But there is always a kind of determination, a calling, a vocation, that this is where you are going. If you are going other way, you will come back. I was determined that, however, like you make me do BSc in mathematics honors or whatever, at the end of the day, I will come back here. This is my calling. You cannot, like, there is something that is attached, so it cannot be severed. So that kind of determination was always there. So I never
Mm.
doubted, like as I said, my English teacher and all, they have all appreciated my literary abilities. So there was no self doubt that okay, if I am pursuing this, and one of the arguments I gave my father, like, see, pursuing literary studies is not a very high earning, lucrative thing. It is a very challenging area. So obviously, my father was intentioning well for me. He wanted me to pursue uh, departments of studies where I will be earning a lot. But I told my argument was that see, very few people will be able to do what I am doing, what I'm choosing to do, because many will have the burden of their family, their parents will not be able to support them. There is this material requirement, there's material support that are literary. If you are going to pursue a career in literature, you need some financial literary support. My father had that. Like, we know that Virginia Woolf, in her Room of Her Own, had argued that women need £500 a year. So that is the case always. A person coming from a where they had to living a hand to mouth life may not have the courage, the determination, or the material uh, uh, facilities to pursue a literary career. I had that, because my father ensured that. So even though he wanted me to pursue science, since I was coming from a bit of a privileged background, I I could take up that challenge. I could take up that risk. So what if even if I fail, I will not be on the road, right? I will be able to do something. But I was confident that I have certain qualities, and that's why that is very important. Because as a writer, it will be difficult for me to sustain myself, especially as a poet, unless you become I become very famous. But there is always academics. So the academics will support my literary career. So the academics is not the first choice. My first choice is that I am a writer, and to support myself as a writer, I have taken up academics. It's not that I don't like academics, because the literary studies, I'm teaching literature, so that helps me in my writing also, because it is the same field. I know the background, I know the history, I know the theories. So these are the things that, even if as a writer, if I was not pursuing academic career, I would have to read those theories, these what are the current trends and all. So while teaching them, and as well as earning from that teaching, I am able to sustain myself as a writer.
Well, that's good that everything fits together so well for you. You know, all of your different endeavors complement each other.
Yes, and so these are not great impediments or great challenges I have overcome, but these are very, very important, because you need to have if you have a determined to pursue a career, you need to know how to pursue it. People may be determined, but they don't know how to do it. So if you have a goal, you should also have a path to reach that goal.
Well, definitely. And I think that's wonderful that you came up with that path and that you were able to reach your goals and that you figured everything out. But also, you know, it's wonderful that you had the resources to be able to pursue that. And I certainly think that's something to think about, that we as societies around the world need to continue to invest in and support our artists. You know, Virginia Woolf, as you mentioned, was a big, you know, leader and advocate for women, but I really think that all people around the world need to have the time and space to be able to develop their artistic gifts and to be able to have that, you know, to have that supported. So that's a good thing that you brought up. And so I'd be interested in knowing, I can tell, you know, over many years of work, I'm sure you've developed a personal style. So if you'd like to speak to what your personal style is and how that has evolved over time, that would be great.
Actually, when I started writing, as I told you, I was writing both poetry as well as short stories. So fiction as well as poetry. There was a strange thing that I was writing a bit different kind of poetry from the poetry I write now. So there was a kind of evolution. If you see my journey as a poet, so there is a distinct evolution. Obviously, the early poetry that I wrote was very, very influenced by the British Romantic poets. They were my favorites: Keats, Coleridge, Wordsworth, Shelley, Byron, and all. So I was highly influenced by them. But once I started finding my voice, and that went on over a period of time, a bit of modern influence also came. So then, once in around 2015, I met Sufia Khatun and fellow poets Sufia Khatun and Anindita Bose, and we found a poetry group called Rhythm Divine Poets. And we started in Kolkata. We started having workshops and having uh, poetry meets. And over a period of time, I developed a kind of style. I can see that from 2015 to 2025, in this 10-year period, I developed. I have found my own voice. So now you can point out, okay, this poem sounds like Amit's writing. This is what he may have written. Even like AI, you can ask to write a poem in Amit Shankar Saha's style. It will give you a poem in my style. But that I can change. That is the thing, that I can change my style. AI cannot change my style. I can develop something new tomorrow. Regarding, but there was a bit of a kind of a gap. There was a, you can say, a writer's block or something, because when I started doing my PhD, I had to uh, grasp a register, the academic register, which is totally different from the creative register. And whatever I had to write, I had to write in a kind of academic formal style. I could not have that kind of freedom that a creative writer will have. So once I started doing my research and writing my thesis, then at that time, even if I tried to write a poem or a story, it almost sounded like it's part of a research work. The language, because I was too much into that academic register. So even after writing creatively, the words and like the whole thing was sounding like many people saw, this sounds like this story sounds like a very, very kind of formal writing style. And when I first went to do my PhD, my supervisor said, you write very trendy English, so you have to go and read the critical articles in journals and find out what is academic English. So once I shifted from critical to academic, then it was very difficult to come back to the critical register. And that is when the Rhythm Divine Poets, that group happened. And then I attended a lot of creative writing workshops in British Council and other places. And that is how I regained the creative register. So I started once again, the poetry came back to me. Short stories also came back to me, but I don't get enough time to write them, pursue them. So I don't know whether, but I don't think I have lost it. Even if now I try. So now I have just learned how to switch between the academic register when I am checking a PhD work of a scholar. So I don't know this is what how it should be written. and I can then at night I can, if I'm in the zone, I can write a poem which is totally in a creative register. So now I have got used to that switching between the two registers. So this is how my
Yeah.
styles have developed. I hope my short story writing style has also, that has also changed a bit, but I am not pursuing it in earnest now because I have like too many commitments in academic department. So poetry is happening. But
Mm. Yes, that's good to know that you found a writers group that was kind of more on the creative side, but that you had advisors and people you were working with more on the academic side, because I can see how, well, I mean, of course, it's all human inquiry and curiosity that it would be two very different styles of writing. So that, yeah, leads right into our next question, which is how do you balance your life as a creative writer with your academic commitments?
yeah, that is what I was just saying. You know, my academic commitments don't give me enough time to pursue lengthy piece of writing. And
Mhm.
so, you see, most of my poems are also short. I usually write early in the morning or late at night because during the day, once I am into the world, the the activities of the world, they don't give me that kind of space or mood to write a poem. So late in the night or
Mhm.
early in the morning, these are the two periods when I write poems. I write a few book reviews, and some of them are creative also. Uh, but as a sustained effort to write fiction or short stories or longer pieces of poems, that type of luxury I'm not having at present because of my academic commitment. But I just believe that I have not lost it altogether. There
Mm.
will be time, there is potential, there will be opportunities when will have that kind of time when I can regain that. Since I have regained something, so I know that that can too can be regained. It is something that is in me. I can feel it. Okay, only that it requires a bit of practice, a bit of like as I said, after doing my PhD, I had to join a few creative writing courses, creative writing workshops. So once you are in a group of writers, that works in a sense. It inspires you, and then that those creative juices start coming out once again.
Well, yes, writers groups have been incredibly useful for me, if nothing else, just the reminder that I need to write something every week to be able to have something to share with the group. And what I tell myself is that there are seasons in life. You can do everything, but you can't always do everything all at once. There are different seasons in your life when you might focus on, say, your family or travel or your professional career or your creativity, and you can do all different things but at different times in your life. And if you are focusing on one thing, you haven't always lost all the other things. You can go back to them in a different season, but they're still there waiting for you. So yeah, so that leads into my next question. How do you balance being a public personality, being, having edited literary magazines and being a professor and being out there with your private life and your private creative space, with the privacy or the alone time that you would need to be creative?
Yeah, that is very vital because especially with poetry is very personal. Obviously, when I put that poem to the public, it becomes impersonal, as T.S. Eliot has said, the impersonality of art. But it starts from a very personal something that will be associations, personal things that will come to you, that will, it's a strange combination. What will you end up with as a creative writer? But to balance private life, in fact, I have written poems where I question myself like, who is the person who has written this poem? In my day-to-day life, if anyone sees me, they will judge me that I am a totally unemotional person, a very, very rational person. No one can see that this kind of poems, this kind of poems with emotions is written by me. But that
Mm.
is where as I told you, when I go into that zone, I am totally a different person. At night, if I am in the mood, I am in the zone. As a poet, I become a poet for that moment. After the poem is written, I again come out of it. And then I can, that is a very good thing, because then I can see my own poem with a critical insight of a critique, of an academic, because I am no longer the person who wrote that poem. I am now a academic. I am now a someone else. So there are two personalities. One is the poet personality, and one is the academic personality. And I like, just I am switching between academic register and creative register. I am also switching between this Jekyll and Hyde kind of personality, because sometimes I am also surprised that I wrote this. Like, many a times, while having a conversation with a fellow poet, uh, I get some lines and I write a poem. It's very spontaneous, instantaneous, and then after that that moment is over, then I can go and edit the poem and do the revise, do some revisions and all, and just make it the finalize the draft. But it often surprises me. This is where I can go, because when I am here, I know I am a totally unfeeling person. I'm a rational person. I have
Mm.
no emotions in that sense. I am like away from, because that is one of the thing that I always wanted to live in, a kind of ivory tower. I'll come down, mix with the world, and then go back to my ivory tower and write my do my creative writing. Because when I am writing, I am not part of this world. I'm in a different world altogether.
Yeah, that's great that
But
you're able to access that space, and I certainly enjoyed your poem about winter that you shared with me.
yes, uh, uh, that is a space, as I told you, a poem like in Bolpur, it's a very, very hot climate. So when it is like now we are on the start of summer and it is already hot. So when I was writing poems like winter, uh, like the winter is also cold, but not as cold as other places. So I was writing winter in Bolpur, and then I was writing about poems uh, where it is snowing in Bolpur. It never snows in Bolpur. So these are some of the wonderful things that, as a poet, I can reach those places in my imagination. I can reimagine the place I am staying. These are, what can I say, that, and that is where the my influence from the romantic English romantic poets come. They made imagination one of the strongest power of human being. And this
Mm.
imagination, when I am in that zone when I am a poet, then my imagination is fired up. I can do things, I can do wonders. I can, like, that is a kind of uh, when I am out of it, then I wonder, okay, this is like in some of my poems, uh, I have mentioned that I wonder at that poet who wrote these lines. So
yeah, that is certainly wonderful. And I know that the Romantics have provided inspiration for generations. I was inspired by them myself, as well as literature and novels from that time period. I definitely remember reading Wuthering Heights in high school, for example, and just getting into just how would you be able to describe emotions and the countryside, the land, just in that, with that level of intensity and just singular emotional and romantic vision. So that's wonderful. So just curious, do you write first in English or do you write in another language and translate to English? And what is that like?
No, I started out writing in English because I was studying in an English medium school. So like my father had a school. So English, so like English, Bengali, and Hindi, these three languages I learned simultaneously. So often people ask me, why do you write in English? So I cannot say like why do I write in English, because that is what came naturally to me. I was studying in English. I was reading poems in English. I was reading stories in English. So obviously, I will be thinking and reproducing my thoughts in English. I will be getting my imagination in English. It was natural. So there is nothing to question. But then obviously there is the idea of mother tongue and national language and this, that, and all those things, regional languages. But then I always give this argument that I was suckled by three mothers as a child: English, Bengali, and Hindi. After I gained consciousness, I grew up, I came to know that two mothers are of native Indian origin and one mother has come from abroad. But then once you have been suckled by those mothers, you cannot distinguish mothers by their nationalities or where they come from. They are your mothers. They are all my mother tongues. So it is not a surprise. It is not like, especially for poetry, people say that poetry comes naturally in your. I am using not English, not Bengali, not Hindi. When poetry is coming out from me, it is coming out in my language. The vocabulary is from English. The idioms may be from English, but the expressions, my Indian background, my Indian ethos, my sentiments, these are exclusively mine. No one else can express what I am expressing in my poem. So it's a language that is exclusively mine. So I say I don't write in English, I write in my language. This is my language. This is how I express. Another person having the same, putting in the same situation, would have expressed it differently. So this is because creative writing. It's not. I'm not writing a manual for operating a computer or a TV. Then all will be writing the same. Step one, this. Step two, this. Creative writing is where you make that language your. The language is now mine. How I am using it, it is totally my usage. And that is what gives that distinctness. This is Amit's style. So you can identify my style because I have made that language mine.
And that's wonderful that you have been able to do that with different languages and that you have different languages and cultures, feeding into your artistic inspiration. I just think that's fascinating, and we ought to give people credit for that. So, yeah, what would you say are the most important qualities somebody can have to be successful, either as a writer or a creative or an academic? Just what qualities do you think have been the most important, that you have for your success?
I said earlier, reading is something is essential for writing. Just hold on. The more you read, the better writer you become. So I have been reading since my school days. Another thing is perseverance,
Mm.
patience. Things will not happen overnight, but you have to have that self belief. You know, this is your calling. This is where you want to belong. Often, when I was young, I used to go to literary festivals and I used to see all those writers sitting and discussing. So often, people used to say, why do you go to these lit fest and to hear all these writers? You are like wasting your time. I want to belong there. Now I go up there. I had that belief that one day I will be on the podium, I will be discussing things. So that kind of belief has to be there. And you know, as I said earlier, if you know that you have to reach there, somehow or the other, you will make your path. And if you are determined, even luck, destiny, all will be in your favor. You have to just make sure that you have the perseverance, patience. The moment you lose your patience, you say, okay, it's not happening. If that
Mm.
happens, then all your work, all your like years of effort, they all get negated. Because
Mm.
if you say that moment, you are regretting every second of your life that you have lived in the past. And like, why will I regret things? I know it has not happened today. Okay, it will happen tomorrow. If it has not happened tomorrow, it will happen day after tomorrow. I will go on, because it is not where you are reaching. It is also what you are doing to reach. The means are
Mm.
also as enjoyable as the goal. The moment you reach the top, you know the next step is to go down. So the
Mm.
reaching the top is not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is the pursuit. You are going up. That is, the journey has to be enjoyed, because once you reach the end, that is the end. You cannot enjoy after that.
Well, yes, certainly life is a journey and there's always something more to learn and discover creatively. I can't imagine ever reaching the top of literature. I mean, there's always something more to write and to think about. Even if people tend to use the same stories and archetypes, there's always something new in the world where you can have the archetype for this culture or this generation. So I feel there's always something new to think about, something new under the sun in the literary world. You can always keep improving your craft too. I don't think I will ever have totally arrived in terms of my craft. I'll always be working on it. And I think the writers groups and the mentors I've had have been an integral part of that for me, and I can tell that it's been that way for you too, which is fabulous. But then another thing to think about, the other side to always learning, is criticism and feedback that you get. Sometimes it's negative, either something that can improve your craft or something from somebody who just plain doesn't get it or doesn't like your writing. So how do you handle different types of negative feedback?
Feedback is very important. What is dangerous is if you are totally ignored, the indifference.
Mm.
If your book, you have written a book, no one reads it, it is
Mm.
totally ignored. That is when you should be afraid. That is a situation you should be afraid of. If it gets criticism, fine, people are reading it, you should be happy. And if it gets appreciated, that's that's the obvious thing that will make you happy. But criticism is also something that is going to make you happy, because the more you get criticism, that means more and more people are reading it. And and especially in the case of marketing, whatever publicity you are getting, whether it's negative or positive, any kind of publicity is publicity,
Mm.
even if it is negative criticism. So the kind of criticism that I face, uh, it's a learning experience. You know that some people will see this in a different light, but obviously there are certain uh, critics who will misread a poem. Like one of my poem from my book Fugitive Words, uh, uh, female critic wrote about it that this is how a man will see a woman.
Mm.
She did not get the point that the poem was written in a woman's voice. It was not a man's voice. So she
Mm.
misread the poem. And so the whole point of it was lost. So that kind of, that's the mistake of the critic,
Mm.
because they did not get that point. Whereas other critics have got it. So uh, those things are there. But in fact, that created a kind of point of argument, and then many critics say, okay, that's a classic case of misreading. Uh, that helped the poem get popularity also. So it,
Yes, certainly. As a book publicist, I totally have that attitude. Most publicity is good publicity, just that people are talking about and reading and engaging with your work. And there are always going to be different types of understandings and thoughts and criticisms.
and constructive criticism is always welcome, because that
Mm.
improves your craft.
Yes, I tell myself that because I intentionally seek out critique and feedback from people who are not always going to get it or going to have different kinds of opinions. And I just think, okay, if everybody is kind of saying something, then that's something to think about. If one person says something, maybe that's just their thing. But if multiple people are kind of saying something, then it's something I need to go back and take a look at in my writing. And just make sure, is this serving the work? Is this doing what I want it to do within the story, or is it distracting, or is it confusing? So I go back over it and, look over it in that way. But here's another question about, dealing with the pressures of the world. How do you deal with expectations people have of you as a writer or an academic that you may or may not always be able to fulfill, or with fan expectations for your writing?
Yeah, like as a writer, while growing, at some point you finally find that people are expecting something from you. So as if you have arrived as a writer. So there is an expectation now. And obviously there are expectations from people who are close to you, who know you very well, who know your potential. So they will be expecting, as I told you, as a short story writer, I have not produced a book as of yet. I have like contributed stories to anthologies. So that is something that I can look forward to. Uh, but can I satisfy all the expectations? Obviously, the some of the expectations I have. Okay, I will be producing a anthology of short stories, but that is when I require that space, that time to produce that manuscript. I may have the number of stories, but I have to arrange it. So those things are there, and then there is something that, okay, it's not yet time for me to do this, like writing a novel. I have
Mm.
not I have not felt that, okay, it's not yet time for me to write a novel. I have written fictional pieces, which things that won the Wordweaver Prize, around stories around 6,000 words or more, 8,000 words, 6,000, 8,000 words. But I have not gone beyond that, because I have never felt that a lengthier piece I should engage in writing, because I know, uh, when I was young, I had tried. I had like because the novel writing was one of the during my days in college, I had dabbled with it. But then, as I told you, I have this peculiar habit of going into the zone and coming out of it. So when I go into the zone, I am able to write, sustain myself for some period of time. But when I come out of it, and then again I go back into that zone, I'm not in the same zone. I may be writing another thing. I may be in that creative zone, but I am not writing that same poem. The poem I left behind, I may not find connection, or I may not continue with it. Obviously, there are uh, exceptional cases. I may write a new poem, a totally something new. So that's why I can produce a series of poems, but not a single long poem. And that is also the case with a single piece of writing. So there will be expectations from all sorts of people, and some of it I can fulfill, some of it I will fulfill in the future, and some of it I also don't like. Like I don't know what are the exact expectations of so many people, but there is also something that you have to break that expectation, because if you go into a stereotype and people expect you to write a same way again and again, then that is also not very good for a writer. So there are different things. So like once you are in the field, I often say, if you are a writer, so often people say that I am a writer, I only write, I don't bother about marketing my book or planning or anything. I am too absorbed in my writing. Will a businessman, an industrialist, oh, I only make iron and steel. I am not bothered about marketing my iron and steel. I am not bothered about running a company. Then he is not a good industrialist. In that similar argument goes for a good writer has to be involved in every aspect of his writing, because that is your calling. So you have to know uh, how to market it, how what poem to read and where to read and how to read, and what kind of writing when to produce. So these are things you are involved in your career. So like all aspects of, like, I am interested in all aspects of my career as a writer. I am not just that kind of writer who will be only writing and then expect the whole world to come to me seeking my work. I have to take my work to the world.
Yes, as the book publicist, I heartily agree with that. It's about finding your audience where they already gather and reaching them how they already communicate. So it's just, and it's all, it's all parts of the same process, of engaging with the world and bringing literary content to the world and then getting inspiration from those interactions to create more work. It is kind of like saying, oh, I'm in a factory and I'm only producing this little part of the building, even though, I'm a building contractor. So yes, thank you for saying that, the publicity and marketing is part of the work as well, and that you're also engaged in that. So yeah, here's a question that comes off of that. How do you stay up to date with everything else going on in the world? And you've kind of spoken to that, but you're welcome to say more if you'd like, or with everything else going on in the writing world with new developments in writing.
So there are one of the good thing about teaching is that I don't have to go to search for what new developments happening. The students are there, they come up with the new things. They know better. They are doing some research on PhD researcher is doing a research. So I take up research. Uh, I to guide researchers who come up with not exactly my area of work. Someone is doing a research on bioregionalism.
Hmm.
That is a new theory that has come up. I have no idea about it. My studies, I did my studies on diaspora studies. So, but I am guiding that person. In guiding that person, I am able to know new things. So, this is an advantage. Another thing is reading. Obviously, through reading and framing curriculum, syllabus, and all those things, new things always come. These poetry groups and all those. The you can have a in academics we have the peer group. So similarly, the writers group, they come, and then as editor of EKL review, I get all these submissions, and we encourage that avant-garde kind of writing. So all these things, and obviously there is also newsletters. So many from Paris Review, from this, that, all the newsletters keep coming, and you know that what is the trend. So because this is the world you want to belong to, this is the world you want to live in. So you have to surround yourself with all these things if you want
Well,
to live.
certainly, it's just all part of the ecosystem. It's like hiking out in nature. I'm a hiker, and so I'll go out and see, all of the different plants and the animals. Like, okay, the birds are doing something, the trees are here, the beetles are climbing on the trees, and the moss is growing in the north, and the grass is growing, and it's all parts of an ecosystem. Everything has to work together, in order to be able to make a natural scene the way it is. And then you just, you keep up with everything going on and every little bit of it playing its part. So that's cool. I just sort of see the writing world in the same way, or just the thought ecosystem of all different kinds of ideas all interacting with each other, in literature and in the world, all interflowing into each other. So I think that's fascinating just to keep up with the realm of ideas. So, yeah, one final official question before I'm going to invite you to share whatever else you would like to share about your writing and your life. What do you hope that your legacy will be?
uh, you can say I am living in a world which I have created,
Mhm.
because I have surrounded myself with things I wanted in my surrounding. And obviously, there are more ambitions and other things. Not everything will get fulfilled every time, but I am in the process. So I'm enjoying the process. Things are happening, things are not happening. So it's all a process. So you're making an effort. I'm making an effort, and that is where it all counts. Whether that effort, like as I told you, when I was pursuing bachelor in science, I was reading English books. I was not appearing for a bachelor's in arts, but I was not appearing for the exam. But the studying part did not stop. You don't study only for the exam. Even if you are not giving the exam, you study. So I was studying all the books of English honors. I knew that I am not going to appear for English honors exam. I am going to appear for maths honors exam. But just because I am not going to appear does not restrict me that I will not read all those books. So the whole thing. So I feel, just as I have a had a feeling that this is my calling, like Keats. Once again, coming back to Keats, Keats once said that he has a realization that he shall be among the English poets, the British poets. I too have a kind of feeling that I shall be among the Indian poets.
Mm.
But then I see the very category of Indianness and all, because I'm writing in English, which goes beyond just the Indian continent, the subcontinent of India. So in the current world, a writer is not of one country, one caste, or one community. A writer belongs to the whole world. But
Mm.
obviously, the very act of being a writer is also a kind of activism, because I am representing something that that is kind of endangered in this world. A world where, as you said, as you asked me the question, how the world affects me,
Mm.
there are such things happening in the world that you will feel that in this world, what is the use of poetry when people are dying, when there is so much of corruption, when such grave injustices are done, where people are not caring for the environment, where our whole existence is in peril, and you are writing poetry. But that very act of writing a poem, despite all these, is a protest against all these.
Mm.
Because the moment you give in, you try you abandon your dreams and try to go and do other things, is where your dreams go out of the window.
Mm.
Because the, because this is the kind of uh, world we are living in. The writers, poets, they are becoming, they are being they are made to feel as if they are the luxuries. They don't have any reason to be uh, there in society.
Mm.
And so the very act of being a writer is the negation of that one.
Mm.
So this is a kind of activism. I will feel like I am, as a writer, I am contributing to that act. So maybe the future will be more sustainable if there are more writers, if there are more poets. We are not harming the environment. We are not killing people. If there were more poets, more writers in this world, there will be less misery in this world.
Mm. Definitely. And that's great that you've embraced the higher calling aspect of that, that you see your writing as a calling. And I have faced similar questions. I look at everything going around the world because our magazine that I publish, Synchronized Chaos, takes art and writing from all around the world. And sometimes people are writing about really horrific things going on or that have happened to them. And I think, oh gosh, all we can really do about this is put this into the magazine. But then I think we're bearing witness and we're giving that person the opportunity to be heard and to document what happened, that we didn't just sit silently by while all this stuff happened. We thought about it and we talked about it in public, and we remembered and gave dignity to all of the lives who disappeared, with, human, plant, animal, microbe or ecosystem or otherwise. And showed that those lives mattered and that they had dignity and that they were memorialized. And we created a space where people could think and could communicate. And we showed that, people from around the world had value. And I just really think that writing and that creativity can embrace that. Something I heard that fascism is taking very easy solutions to really complex problems, in a sense that, get people riled up but don't really work to solve the problems. And so I think the whole act of writing and creativity, when you approach it honestly, is a rebuke to that, is saying the world is complicated and the world needs to be approached with thoughtfulness and compassion and attention to detail and attention to craft and with humility and learning and an open mind. And so I think just advocating and taking part in the practice of writing as any other art, is something redemptive and meaningful to the world. And I'm really glad that you and I are part of that. And so I'm going to invite you, if you have anything else you would like to share about yourself, about your work, about what's going on in the literary world, just anything else you'd like to share that we didn't address in these questions.
Just your magazine is titled Synchronized Chaos, and uh, that's a very like such a apt name, because chaos is like is chaos is there, but you have to know how to synchronize it. That is where the whole world, like as you said, fascism wants to find out simple solutions. You cannot have that kind of thing, because the world is complex. You want to simplify it. That is a kind of thing that will lead to more destruction. You have to know how to tackle it, rather than you discard it or exclude it. So these are the things that literature takes you to levels of understanding which is not possible in a world if you see things in that simplistic. That's why I said the literariness things you have to identify. Literariness is a kind of you feel a texture of a cloth and say, okay, this is a fine cloth. What makes it? Is it because there are this many threads or whatever? You can feel it. So that feeling has to be imbibed in the people. So this is good, this is thing, this is right, this is literary. So that kind of we are losing that sense in a world where right, wrong, good, bad, like as human beings, we should have that instinct for goodness, for survival. And yet we are constantly doing bad things. We are constantly harming ourselves. We are putting ourselves into peril. And that is like, I don't know, it's like a kind of evolution that is leading us towards our self destruction. But I don't know, evolution should be uh, positive, should sustain life, right? It has to have that uh, sense of how to survive, and human beings had that capability. So that instinct, and without literature, we cannot cultivate that instinct to know things, not just by equation or just by data or just by statistics. You have to have that instinct to know this is what is good. Just like a piece of literature, just because a book has 10,000 words or 20,000 words does not mean a 20,000 word book is better than a 10,000 word book, right? You cannot judge literature by those numbers. So that I believe, and in that sense, all these Rhythm Divine Poet, EKL Review. I also belong to a group called Intercultural Poetry and Performance Library. So all these organizations, they uh, help in in their own way in making small changes in the world, a world which ultimately will sustain itself in a very what do you call, like we know that UN has given all those sustainability goals and all, but there are finer things in life that also need sustenance.
Yes, it's just all part of life and just our humanity. Just think so much would be lost. And then think back during the COVID pandemic, just how when we were all sheltering in place, how we turned to movies and to books and to, just even paintings online and poetry, things to read and watch and enjoy, that it was really the arts that got us through that. And so and just think about how much would be lost if we didn't have that. So we just need to continue investing in all areas of human thought and human experience. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to interview you and learn more about you. And I invite people to look you up and to check out your work online.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure and a privilege to join this chat with you, Christina. And this, I believe that the Zena platform is doing very good work. I am here because as a writer, I wanted to belong to this, to interact with fellow writers. This is what, this is the connection we should increase. And otherwise, as writers, I don't know, like we have a, you can say we have a kind of community, a kind of imagined community of writers. We form a nation of our own. We form a kind of a civilization of our own, and we will try to increase our more members into our community, our civilization, our nation.
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. And I'm honored to join with you in becoming part of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that concludes our episode of Xena World with Dr. Amit Shankar Saha. Thank you very much to everybody who has watched the show, and we hope that it was inspirational and thoughtful.
Over to Mr. Rajiv, Mr. Rajiv Anand. I hope it was all good.
Yes, I would think so. Yes.
Mr. Rajiv said.
Hmm.
Synchronized Chaos has a website, right?
Okay, yes, and I'll put that into the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah, feel welcome to take a look and check out the show. Or feel welcome to take a look and check us out. We take art and writing from around the world, and then we develop a theme out of everything everybody has sent us. So that we look and say, oh, we got a lot of submissions about this or that, and then we take our theme out of that.
I also have a I run a journal, EKL Review. You can just check it out, eklreview.com.
Oh, wonderful. Feel welcome to put the link to that in the chat, and I'll check it out. Okay, eklreview.com. I see that. Copy text. Okay, EKL review. I will definitely take a look, and I love your taxonomy at the beginning. I think that's clever. So that's cool. So anyway, yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to need to go, but it was wonderful to meet you and talk with you.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
All right. Thank you very much. I thought Rajiva was going to pop in, but I guess he doesn't seem to be here. So